When you were writing the music for The Dark Side of the Moon, did you have any sense at that time how extraordinarily successful it was to become?
When we'd finished making it, I took a 1/4-inch home and I played it to my then wife, and she burst into tears. And I thought, well, she feels the same way I do. We finally cracked it. So it's at that point, which was 1973, where I felt we've been at this since 1965. So it was 8 years later. During those 8 years, we have honed our craft to the point where we're capable of making a piece of work that is homogeneous and well crafted and well put together. You know, if we were cabinet makers, we could stand back now and look at that cabinet or the chair or whatever and go, you know what, that is well made. That's a nice piece of furniture. And it was. And so I think we were all confident that it would strike a chord. How at that big a chord, no, nobody could predict that. But it was something we were proud of at the time.
Where did the idea for The Wall come from?
Well, it started with the theatrical idea. We did a gig in '77 in Montreal for when we were touring Animals as Pink Floyd, and I was very disaffected by being in football stadiums with people who seemed not all that interested in what we were doing. And I'm told, obviously I can't remember this anymore now, but I'm told that I actually spat on somebody who was trying to get up on the stage. And disgusted as I was by my actions, I thought about it deeply and lost quite a lot of sleep. And during that loss of sleep, I thought, what a great theatrical idea it would be to do a rock and roll concert and to physically build a wall across the front of the stage while the concert's going on, just to demonstrate how much alienation there is potential for in that. And then the record came after that theatrical idea.
I certainly don't want to dwell on it, but at that time, what were you feeling between you and the audience? Because from the outside looking in, you're getting all this adulation, you're getting all this approval that you should be among the happiest guys on the planet, but obviously you weren't happy.
Yeah, well, no, I wasn't. That can absolutely be an illusion, which if you look at the history of all popular entertainment, you will find casualties in the entertainers. Maybe as often as you find stories where people carry the success that they've had in entertainment industry, and that makes them happy in their personal and private lives and so forth. It may be that however much you get on the stage and however much the spotlight falls on you and however successful you are and however and whatever, until you do the important work, which has nothing to do with that, or until you experience what I was describing before, the transcendental nature of love, if you're lucky enough ever to figure any of that out, which is much harder than playing a banjo, as we all know, you may continue to feel empty, and you may continue to reach for whatever it is that you were looking for, because it was almost certainly a substitute for something. Because you can experience the joy of music sitting on your own on the lawn, playing the violin or something, without the need for all of that sort of star bullshit.
Wish You Were Here. What's the story behind that song?
It's one of those strange songs that came to me very easily because David Gilmour had been playing the riff, and I'd been listening to it and going, what's that? And he played it again. I said, play that again. So I learned it. And I said, and then what happens? And he said, no, that's it. And I went, I like it. And he went, yeah. I said, so do you mind if I see what happens next? And so I played a few chords and wrote the song very, very quickly, as I recall. Probably in an hour. So it was one of those happy times when stream of consciousness works, and words come out that have meter and meaning and are musical and fit a melody, so I don't try to investigate them too much. You know, it would feel a little bit like investigating a butterfly. You end up with dust and a few broken bits. You know. So it was when we were making the record Wish You Were Here, which was all about absence, and it was to some extent about the loss of Syd Barrett, who had succumbed to mental illness 7 or 8 years before. So, I don't know, we're just two lost souls swimming in a fishbowl.
What do you want the world to know about Syd Barrett?
You know, he was a charming, ebullient, talented friend, and I miss him. But I've been missing him since 1968, you know, because he succumbed to some sort of mental illness, which you might call schizophrenia. You can kind of call that combination of symptoms anything you want, but the fact is that if it happens to somebody, it prevents them from communicating with their friends, loved ones, with anybody. They really do develop a wall, and Syd developed a wall, and it was extremely sad. But he was very talented. But the work is there, and people love him, and people love his work, and new people discover the songs that he wrote as the years go by.
At some point, the end comes for all of us, and we're going to hold a memorial service for you. And we want to play one piece of your music, one piece only, and let it play all the way through. What would your choice for that be?
I don't want any of it. I want Mahler's Fifth Symphony, please. Screw Pink Floyd and all that stuff. Gustav Mahler, I think. I mean, but there are so many wonderful pieces of music in there that are there and that pop into my mind long before anything that I've been involved with. You know, it's music, it comes in the moment. I like to sort of sometimes use the analogy of painting. So it's like when Van Gogh puts that last bit of yellow on his sunflowers or whatever, in that moment when he stands back, I don't know what he was thinking, but this is what happens when I've written a song or I'm recording a piece of music. There is one fleeting moment when you go, oh, that is good. And then it's gone. And it never comes back. You never hear it again the same way. Whether Van Gogh ever saw the painting again in the same way after that moment when he knew it was finished, I don't know. I don't know why I told you that. But
well, can you think of a time when you were writing your music, writing your song, when you had that moment?
Yeah. I mean, just recently, because I can only think about the most recent work. But when you say that, there's a song on the record called "The Last Refugee," which is really beautiful, and it's got these lines at the end. But it's really the music. But it talks about, you'll find my child down by the shore, digging around for a chain or a bone, searching the sand for a relic washed up by the sea, the last refugee. That's making me nearly, I know it sounds ridiculous talking about
No, it doesn't sound ridiculous at all.
The idea of being in a future where the idea even of a refugee is a relic from the past is so moving to me.